Steven says, do you guys really see Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn in AEW? Money's going to run out eventually. Marcus, did you hear about all this news with Kevin Owens and the potential of Sami Zayn too as well?
I've heard about Kevin Owens. I haven't heard any buzz surrounding Sami Zayn.
So the talk of Zayn is that his contract may be up this fall with WWE. Then I've heard some conflicting things that maybe that's not necessarily true. Now, as far as Kevin Owens is concerned, it very much appears, according to Fightful, that his contract is up in January. And Kevin Owens on Twitter posted the coordinates of Mount Rushmore, which is the faction he was a part of with PWG, being with the Young Bucks. And oh my gosh, who was the fourth one? Help me out here, chat. There was one. Who was the fourth member? Somebody in the Elite was there. Was it Kenny? I think it was Kenny. Nah, maybe it wasn't Kenny. I can't remember who was the fourth person of Mount Rushmore in there. You had
Cole?
The Bucks. Yes, Cole. Thank you. It was Adam Cole.
I got it from Nesha.
Okay, so that then he deleted that tweet, and then I think his location was like almost there. So Kevin Owens is, I think, AEW bound, and that's another name that you cannot pass up on.
Plus, he's got a great relationship with Chris Jericho. So it's, I think strong probability that we'll see Kevin Owens on AEW. It's exciting, man. I'm not, as much as you and I say the roster's too big, it's creating a problem. It's still really exciting. Right. It's a really fun time to be a wrestling fan. It does feel like old school WCW where Ted Turner was just like, get him, bring him in.
You know what? Scoop him on in. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's starting to feel like that, which is a lot of fun. I think it creates logistic nightmares, but I think that you can work around it.
You can. So, I think like I say, go by the volleyball philosophy where you keep your core players. Obviously, it's not like perfect to a T, but like you keep your star players, but then you rotate the rest of them through. And here you go. That person's quote unquote leaving the territory, and then he or she can come back around again.
Right. Nesha says, but what happened with WCW? The AOL Time Warner merger happened. I really think that's actually the crux of it. I mean, not gonna lie, the product was starting to become a bummer, but yeah, it was really the AOL Time Warner merger.
And you didn't have wrestling minds that were like up and Turner basically at that point either, and they were fighting an uphill battle. So, and just a lot of fractured stuff, a lot of different issues with WCW that AEW does not have. So,
Dom, Jason brings up a point here, and I think we should touch on it. Ted Turner brought in more star-studded people from WWE. I don't consider these guys to be star-studded. So I think it brings up a point of, do you think that kids today look at WWE stars or AEW stars for that matter as being like the way that you and I looked at like the Ultimate Warrior or Hulk Hogan or the Big Boss Man back in the day? Do you think the kids see them in that same light?
I think kids do, but I also don't think the audience isn't as big. It's just that's the fact, that's the nature of it, and the popularity isn't as strong. Now it's like we're seeing it on an upward trend, and there's some actual real good buzz going on with pro wrestling, and so it's a very in a positive direction. But obviously, you don't have a Hulk Hogan, you don't have a Rock or an Austin to that level, and that's hard to get to. So, but you have these big names that are like the ones Marcus, you and I liked, like a Hall and Nash, where you have names that are intriguing, Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, and you're working on getting Kenny Omega to that level. From a WWE perspective, you have Roman Reigns, obviously not to a level of an Austin or a Rock or even a Cena, but I really think you can put Cena and CM Punk or Bryan Danielson on the same level as one another.
And as you and I have discussed, even early on in this podcast, the way for AEW to compete and win ultimately against WWE is what they're doing, and it's working, which is the Hall and Nash formula. You bring in stars that people care about and that have a bunch of name and brand equity, and then all of a sudden it's wait a minute, that guy that I loved, let's say that you were a fan back when it was Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho in WrestleMania, where you're just like, oh, that was such a fun time in wrestling. They should have been the semi-main event. Like what happened to Kevin Owens? I never see him anymore. Where's Chris Jericho? Then all of a sudden you hear like, oh wait, Kevin Owens went over to the competition. I wonder what's going on over there.
What's Bryan Danielson doing over at that new promotion?
Right.
Wow.
Oh man, CM Punk, I haven't seen him since 2014. I wonder what this new promotion is. So like all of a sudden you just create all this buzz and people are like, all right, I just want to see what this program's about. And then next thing you know, you've hooked a new audience member. So really it's smart. It's kind of the only way to go about it. I think that you have to figure out the logistics of it. As far as like when you're booking people. And honestly, it should be 1 week on, 1 week off for some of the talent. Where it's like we'll see Cody Rhodes on an A week, and then we'll see Kenny Omega on a B week. You know what I mean? So like I think that people, right? It's got to have
them on every week.
No, don't have to, and it builds anticipation.
Yes, and so Booker T made a really good point too on his podcast, the Hall of Fame I was transcribing, and he was like, we didn't even talk about this, Marcus, and we can kind of tie this all in together. But let me start with this first, what I was getting at. Booker T said that a lot of these fans today, like new fans, they're going to get connected to wrestling just by first watching AEW, not WWE anymore. Like, you're going to get a new fan base that's going to get started off being introduced to wrestling by like a Darby Allin and Sting together. Or like you're going to get introduced to, with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and then Jurassic Express. It's a whole new audience and a new product that don't have those ties. Because I mentioned this on the Wednesday episode, Marcus, was like over 20 years WCW has been gone. But so a lot of these new WWE fans, you see a lot of these WWE stands online that are just like, they'll defend WWE through thick and thin, like, and everything like that. But that's literally like basically the only wrestling product they've known, like, is what WWE has presented to them. So there's nothing for them to kind of be like, okay, well, this is how wrestling was when I just, like, me and you watched wrestling because we liked who we liked and we liked what was good. Now, like, there's like a weird sense of brand loyalty that you might not necessarily like fault those fans for thinking, but it's still a weird dynamic that, like, heck, WWE's created this identity, this weird Orwellian identity that's like, oh, let's get tied into that, and that's how sports entertainment is done. So,
I remember around like 99, 2000. You and I were huge WCW fans, but the product wasn't good.
And we switched over to WWE quite a bit.
So we were watching more and more WWE, and now so it's really, I just like good wrestling, and I'm still that way. Uh-huh. So like if WWE all of a sudden starts to take like an upturn and like they become entertaining and take the necessary steps to get back to where they were, I'll watch it.
Yeah,
I want it to be good.
Yeah,
it's just not right now.
Now SmackDown was pretty good, I will say that, but.
So maybe they're bouncing back.
That's one shot. That's it. So, and Mick Foley. So, Marcus, did you see this? The Mick Foley stuff.
I've heard about it.
So he did a video. WWE, we have a problem, and basically says WWE is no longer the company that wrestlers aspire to go to anymore, and saying like AEW has done all this stuff, and like this was after All Out. He made these comments on Facebook and stuff like that, and Mick Foley is the type of guy, obviously a legend. Obviously knows the business in and out. So damn smart. So damn.
Let me say this: Mick Foley, more than The Rock, more than Stone Cold in that era, 99 to 2000, when you and I started switching the channel to WWF. That's why, for me, I wanted to see what Mick Foley was doing. I thought he was great. I thought he was super entertaining. He was my favorite guy.
Yeah. And Marcus, it was like for me too. I grew to like Stone Cold as I grew older, like, and appreciate what he did as I grew older. But our two guys was like for WWE, and like you can even throw Ken Shamrock in there. For me, it was like The Rock, Ken Shamrock, and Mick Foley, basically. Like those were the guys that were like, hey, that's why I can switch over from Nitro to WWE, is because of those three, for me at least.
Right. Oh man, Mick was incredibly entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Him
we
going,
digress.
Yeah, him going and saying that stuff. That's important information for WWE. Like, if Mick Foley's saying that stuff where he's been like pretty darn loyal to your company and like has said, done the right things and played ball basically, but still kept true to himself at the same time. I mean, you better be raising your eyebrows and taking note if Mick Foley's saying that stuff. And like maybe SmackDown might be an indication of that, but that could just be a big one-off too. Who knows? And Booker T was like, it was with Mick 100%. But these guys have a cachet where they should be allowed to say this kind of stuff because they've earned it. You know what I mean? So what do you think more on that? Do you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, well, he hit the nail on the head, and I don't think WWE wants to hear it, because I think that they still view themselves in that untouchable light. But it's true. They're not what they used to be. Not nearly as entertaining. They're way too structured. They're more focused on being a television program than they are on being a wrestling program, and it shows. And so like then you've got it's AEW. It reminds me of like that meme of like Squidward looking out the window and like seeing everybody having fun, and he's not. Like that's kind of how it's got to feel to be in WWE right now, where it's like these guys are getting good money. They're probably working less days, it appears. It seems like an easier travel schedule, and also they get a little bit more creative freedom. So like these guys, it's like a wrestling utopia.
Not a little bit more, a lot more.
Yeah, way more creative freedom. So like it's like a wrestling utopia over there. And like like people fumble the ball here and there. Like there's promos where like it seems like somebody kind of gets lost in what they're saying and the promo doesn't turn out great. But guess what? That shit was happening all the time back in like the 90s in WWE, WCW. And it's kind of fun because it's live TV. It shouldn't be perfect. You shouldn't nail it every single time. I don't want to see it perfect. I want to see the seams. I want to see what's going on back there. I want to see somebody try to recover if they're having a bad promo. I want to see somebody say something hilarious off the cuff, that just comes to them like the Rock.
And that's how you got Austin 316.
Yep. And so the formula that created all the success that WWE had in the first place, The Rock, just like talking about what The Rock is cooking and stuff like that, and Stone Cold, all this off the cuff stuff that these guys are saying, it's not a thing anymore. It's all manufactured.
You won't get a Rock in WWE.
You won't get it. You won't get it. So it's all the stuff that made them successful they did away with, and now there's AEW, and they're like they're encouraging people to do that stuff. So yeah, I think WWE needs a little wake up call, and I hope they get it because you certainly see potential in some of the talent that they've got over there.
Yeah, and the reports are that WWE's not very happy with Foley saying that.
I don't imagine. But
if you're not happy with it, do something about it.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
Truth hurts, buddy. Tough love. Tough love Mick is giving to you.